Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Andrej Kiš from Think. Today I'm going to talk to you about how we're integrating AI assistant into Glamorous Toolkit. First, let's just start with a programming question. So the task that we're going to try to do now is make a request to the GitHub API and get back the list of open issues from the Think repository. So there is the new gToolkit repository. I want to have the LLM give me the code to make the request, get back the list, and then create a wrapper class for it. So we're going to start with a prompt, but where to write the prompt? We could have a chat client, but instead we're trying to have more contextual chats in the tools where we are at the moment. So now I'm in a playground, and I have a Pharo snippet. I could add a comment and start writing here my question, my prompt. In this case, I will paste it because I already have it. So it says, generate the code to get the list of open issues from the gToolkit project in the Think.com organization on GitHub. And in this case, if we add a colon at the beginning, it turns it into a prompt. So then I could just click this button, and now we get a request to the LLM. So in this case, we're using GPT-4. So now, sometimes we wait, sometimes we don't wait. We go into a bit of, OK, it did something. Now maybe using here is not the best, so let's try to inspect it. And now we get the same chat object in a new pane. And in this case, we are a bit not lucky. It returns something not good. So part of the demo, let's try to ask it again. Maybe next time we're lucky. Maybe not, maybe something. OK, success. Luckily, the next time it got better. So it returned us some code this time. So it says text to get the list of open issues from the gToolkit project to do this. OK, looks reasonable. And now, when we get code, we add in place a way to execute that code. We can also edit if we find it's wrong or do other things with it. So in this case, let's just execute. And it worked. Super. So I got a list of dictionaries. We can look at the tree view. And indeed, looks like the list of first 30 open issues from the gToolkit repository. So first task successful. But next, we'd like to have a class to wrap this. So let's say I want a class that is wrapping this list of issues. So we could now write a prompt here. In this case, I have it here, so we don't have to write it. So I would say propose a wrapper class with all the methods, a snippet to use it, and also we want a view in this object to show the list. So let's see if we are lucky or not. OK, it's good. In this case, it gives us a plan of what it wants to do. So in the instructions, we're telling if it's more complicated things, first show us a plan. And then we're going to confirm that this plan is OK. So let's not read too much. So let's see what it does now. Thinking. Sometimes it thinks for a long time, sometimes it thinks for a short time. It's always, it was never instant. So no, it's a GPT from somewhere on the internet. OK, super. Let's look a bit what we got. Just as a note, in GT, we're still on Pharo 11. We're migrating now to Pharo 12, so the class syntax is the old one for the moment. So it gives us something. Interesting. So it says, OK, I have this wrapper class, I have these methods, and I have this view. And I have this snippet of how to use it. Nice. Now we'll have to add the code. For that, for example, in each message, we try to have a few other views. For example, here, there is a code view that extracts the code from that message. So now I get the class definition and the methods, for example. And I could accept them from here. Or, if possible, we also try to extract a set of changes that I can apply on top of my current environment. So here is the list of changes, and I can see that it's going to define the class and then add these methods. So in this case, I could just accept and apply these changes directly in the image. Now it's producing a transformation, and now the changes have been added. If I go back to the initial text, there was here a snippet. This one is wrong. This class does not exist, so we can just edit and say bye-bye. And now we can try to execute this one here. And yeah, we got a list of issues. So we got our object. The object has the list of issues. And if we select an issue, we actually go to the dictionary. So if we look at the code, it actually generated something that was working. So we could do this small task. And now, if we just take a step back quickly and look at what we had in the chat. So we have a chat, and this chat has a list of messages. And of course, messages are objects. So if we go to the one below, we could always inspect the object behind this message. And this object has the same views. So we have the same views here and the same views here, and then some views of the object get shown in the chat. So we have a JSON, so we try to communicate as much as possible with JSON data when possible. Some GPT understands this quite well, not all of them. And also, if we go back to the chat, just if you look a bit at how it's implemented, we will see that it has an assistant. And the chat is a generic object, and the assistant is the part that's customized. So in this case, we see it's a code snippet assistant. And it has a set of actions in this case, or formats that in this case are code specific, and the actions are more specific for when working with snippets. And if we look in the chat at the end, these actions here are the ones that we see here. So these are actions that are prompts-like, that are already defined by the assistant that we could use. OK, let's try to play a bit more. So if I go to the, let's see the object. We had our object. Let's inspect again this code. And let's look at the view. And let's say here we have a list. But ideally, I would like to have a table, not just a list. A table and show some more information about issues. We could open our chat. And this chat, we will open it on this method. And just quickly, if we go again to the raw view, and we look at the assistant, now we get a method assistant that has methods and that has actions, more or less, that are specific for a method. We can ask it to review the method, to rename, for example. This didn't make sense for a snippet. We cannot rename the snippet, but you can rename a method. And I want to ask it to transform this method from a list to a column list. This would be, I will copy again the prompt and convert this view method from a list into a column list and include, I want a column showing the title and one showing the author. So let's see how this is going to work. While it thinks, if we look, also the messages that we send are objects, and then we try to send data as a JSON, or some structured JSON, and then I try to explain it to return the data again using the same structured JSON. Super, so it worked. It returned us this. Now, we could directly apply it, or we could go again to the changes view, and we again see a diff of what is going to change here. So looks, I don't know, fine enough, so we're going to apply it. We got our code updated, and if we look at the list of issues, now we get a table instead. So we got the view, and we're able to ask to transform this view some way. But now, let's say we like this view, but we like to add another view. We have an object, and we like to get some other view for this object. We have here another chat, that in this case, the chat is going to apply on the object. Before it was on a snippet, on a method, now we want a chat which is applying on the object, and it has certain actions that are more object specific. And I want to, say, propose a view. So I give it a prompt telling it to look around and see what, try to understand what happens. And then I would like to tell it to focus on more or less providing a summary of these issues. So focus on providing a summary view. And let's see what it's going to do. Didn't mention it yet, but let's see if it's going to happen. OK, no, it just asks us for the plan. OK, I want to do this plan. While it thinks, just as a parenthesis, the assistant also has a list of tools. So these are like callbacks that the LLM can use to call back into our image. So if it needs the definition of a class, of a method, it can always call back. Sometimes it does, but not all the time. So sometimes in the instructions that we give, we tell it that it can call back. But OK, so we got a view. I don't know, let's apply it. Looks reasonable. OK, doesn't look reasonable, so it failed. Let's see, this is a bit last. So again, we are here, we can edit here. In this case, it's just a wrong syntax for some reason. And of course, now we will go into group by, which is wrong. Okay, let's try to fix this if we manage to save it. So it says issues. I think it's grouped by, should be. And I think we need parentheses. But the do, I think we need the associations collect if it wants the state and the group. So, yes? Yes, we tried, but it, yeah. So we had before. So no, I can. So before we had the problem to give it back, but we ended up in loops. So it was very easy to end up in loops. So in the end, we are in the mid, in a mixed mode. Associations, and let's just say I would like to. Who knows? Let's try collect. No, I just want associations because it's don't do key value. So let's remove everything here. Let's see. And again, I forgot something. I guess I need to close some of these parentheses. Maybe this is missing. Perfect. So at least we edited here. And now if we look here, something didn't work exactly as expected. Maybe, I see the values. Okay, so a bit we failed here. But now we could ask it more. We could try to iterate more over it and see if it would produce a view. Success is not guaranteed all the time. So maybe, let's see if we ask it, for example, if we go back to this method. Until now, I always open the chat like here. So I said open chat, and I did. But often, we can just right-click, and then we get, for example, a menu. Here I can say review this method. But then in the end, this is just going to call this action from the assistant. So there is an assistant that has an action. We can open the assistant and do that action, or we can invoke it to various other places. In this case, I'll just say review method. So now it's going to send the review method action, which already has the prompt. So we could always see what's happening behind this. It's not like we do an action and we don't know what's happening behind, what the prompt is, what the structure is. Let's hope it reviews it in some way. Sometimes it also gives us a way to rewrite the method. Sometimes it just explains that something is wrong. In this case, it's thinking more. Seems that it does not like the code. Or who knows. OK, perfect. OK, it gave us something. Let's see if it had any change. Yeah, OK. Let's apply the change. Maybe we are lucky. Maybe not. No, so we rewrote it somewhere, but no, now we could again iterate, but I think it's, for this part of the demo, I think this is fine. So if we take just what we did, we interacted with a few parts with assistants, but we didn't do it from a global chat. We had the chat, for example, in a snippet. We started the chat from a method. We started the chat from an object. We could also start the chat from a class and get actions at the class level. So more or less, we try to have a more... No, could be, next step. yeah, definitely. Yeah, but that would be exactly the issue. No, yeah, good observation. Perfect. So still, these are very textual. It's just code chats. Let's see a bit something more visual. One thing that we have in GT, a view is kind of used called a wordly map. You don't have to know about it. It's kind of a visualization that's used for making decisions, to kind of understand the domain of your business, for example. And we have a snippet for it, so we can have a wordly map snippet here. And this is a view that has nodes and edges, and the position matters where we put them. So I would like to create a wordly map now for evaluating software developments using LLMs. So I'll just create first a node that represents the developer. And now, again, I can start a chat. In this case, it's here. Now, this is a chat that's specific to wordly maps. If I go to the implementation, we have a wordly map assistant. And the actual actions are wordly map specific. I can invoke them from here, but I can also right-click, and in this case, I want to invoke this action. It's this one here. But I will just, maybe easier to write it here. And I want to say software development in the presence of large language models. So now I'll ask you to give me a wordly map based on this topic. When we send it the message, we also send it the current wordly map, because every chat has like an instance, and the instance is the entity from where we started. So in this case, we started from a wordly map, so we're going to send it the wordly map. And also, if we look in the format, in this case, this assistant knows about wordly maps. So we teach it what a wordly map is, how it should represent it textually, and what it should send us back. And it gives us back this. Let's make it more. Everything that's added by the chat, we'll render it with green. And then we can accept or reject, or we can accept everything. We just accept everything because, I don't know. And usually, this is not the best map, but it usually provides a starting point from where we can further experiment. And then we have a ton of other options. Let's just do a simple one. For example, I could right-click on a node. I don't know, maybe I see something that is interesting, and I would like to say, add new connected nodes. Just give me something else, expand this node, please. Again, we're sending a message. The message is the current wordly map, the node, and what we expect it to do. If we look in the message here, we are going to send it this whole wordly map. OK, it gave us back something, and now in this case, we don't see it that well. Yeah, maybe we can move it around. And now we can highlight, again, the things that it added new. So it said this new thing. So now we can see also like a diff. This was before, this is after. These are the new additions to the map. And yeah, we could decide, OK, this I want, maybe I don't like this one, or I want this one. So now we could accept or reject the suggestion, not by compiling, but it's a more visual way, in this case, editing the visualization. So yeah, this shows that also the same idea of assistance can apply to things that are necessary code, can be more visual. You have a dedicated assistant with actions specific to whatever the data is that you want to, so the output that you want, in this case, a wordly map. And as the last part, all the chats until now all the assistants have been predefined. But let's see how it will look like to dynamically create an assistant while chatting with the LLM. So we could just try a simple one to show you a bit the idea. And the one we're going to try to do is we're going to try to build an assistant for helping us create blog posts. So imagine this is the text of my blog post. I would like an assistant that will help me to correct the grammar and suggest me a title based on the text. As a first step, so this snippet just puts this in a variable, the one above. And first, we already created the assistant. I want to show you how it's going to work, and then we're going to go in the process of creating it. So this is the assistant. It has two actions. One is create title or correct grammar. Create title will send it this prompt. So please create me a title. So ideally, we'll get back, I don't know, 2 approaches to using LLM in software understanding. Summary, OK, looks good. And then I could ask it to correct the grammar. Hopefully, it's going to find, yes, we get the new data, and then we also get a diff that is going to show us the old and the new. And then if it's good, we could accept the new one. So this is our assistant that we'd like to see if we could create now in any shape or form. To do that, we need to start from somewhere, and we're going to start from a generic assistant. So we're just going to create a generic assistant, and we're going to give it a title. We have the object, has just the chat action, just knows how to send chats. Formats has just text, more or less. Next, we're going to add the custom format. We're going to tell it that we want a post, just know that a post represents a string. We just want to teach it about this. We'll add it, and now if we inspect again the formats, we see that it knows about post. If we go to the instructions that we send to the LLM, at a certain point, now it includes post, so what we expect by a post. And next, we're going to create an assistant on this, a chat starting from this assistant. OK, this is still a chat. This still has this generic assistant, so nothing changed. Now, there are 2 ways in which we can proceed. One is programmatically. We can programmatically add, for example, actions to assistants. So we could say, I want to add an action that when executed is going to do this prompt. Nothing complicated. We could execute it. And then we could inspect again the chat. And now it has a create title action. And then if we click, it's going to do let's do it, why not? It's going to do and create us a title for this chat. In this case, it gave us some alternatives. So let's say we're fine with this. But next, let's try to add the correct grammar, but this time just from the chat. So we could say correct grammar, so we could send it this prompt. And here, I would like to change something afterwards, because if we look at what we send, we send it, for example, a JSON data structure, and we put the result, we gave it the code, the content of our blog post in this post attribute. And when it sends it back, sometimes it sends it very differently. It just sends that, usually, see, post didn't send anything, and it sent it in text. So if we send it like an object where post has the value, I want it to send me back an object where post has again the value. So it's the same attribute. It will make it easier later. So I will just do one small change. I will say correct grammar, place the result in the post field. I hope it's correct. And hopefully now the result is going to be in the post, as the same as we send it. We can close this because they are not that interesting now. Perfect. It didn't send us any text now. It said, hey, you just wanted post, here is the post. But now how could we diff? We don't have a diff. Yes, so at this point, we'd like to create a view. So I'd like to create a view to this message object that shows me the diff like we had before. If we inspect this, it's a generic message. It says OpenAI action message. So I would like to add a custom class for this message and then add the view to that message. For that, we have a reify action. So if we reify, we can create also two things. We will create a custom class for this assistant and also a custom class for the messages used by this assistant. So I'm going to say I want to create my blog post message. And my blog post assistant, and placed it in the package my blog post. And let's accept this. Magic happened, and now if we inspect again this, we get back an object that's of type my blog post, because we created a new instance and replaced the old instance with a new instance. And also if you go in the raw view, the assistant, now it's a my blog post assistant. So we created these two classes and we replace the assistant in this chat and also the message in this chat. And now this means that if I go back to the chat, I have my blog post. I could add a view to this one. I already have the code here. So this gives me the current post, and this gives me the result that I send to the chat. So the two values. I get two, and I want a diff view. So let's try. This doesn't work always, but I can start from this snippet. And now let's ask the LLM to create us a diff view. I would like to see a diff view between these two values. I have a post here that says, please create me a diff view between the first and the second element of this array. Let's see if it works. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you still need to tweak it manually a bit more. But up to this point was very responsive, so hopefully thinking. Still thinking. It's a hard task. Oh, perfect. Not what I want to see. OK, it said the diff view is correct, this is almost. Let's just manually fix it. I would have liked it to put this one here and this one here. Sometimes it does put it, so it's not that it doesn't happen, but yeah, let's accept. And now we got our diff view, but still you will not see the diff view in the chat yet. So if we go to the chat, what did I do wrong? I need to reopen it. It doesn't appear here. If we look, for example, at this, the definition of this one, we still need to add one more pragma. So the views need to tell it to also show this view in the LLM chat. So now we get our diff view. And as the last step of this demo, we're still missing in the chat this action to create grammar. But in this case, we can say, reify this action, please. Create me a class for this action. So we'll call it correct grammar. So the method, we give it a name, which is still correct grammar. And now the post is the one we gave it. And we also, usually when we generate, we also give it the example of what it gave us, and what we gave it, and what it returned. it helps to have examples of what you expect from it. So now we can save, and now we get our correct grammar behind. And if we just quickly look at what it generated, if I go to the raw view, I have my assistant. Let's just look at the class. We generated more or less the post message with the view that we added, and the assistant, which has the, for example, the correct grammar action, and also the create title action that we added programmatically. So in this case, we created all of these more or less interactively. We created this assistant in a bit more interactive way while chatting. We said, okay, I like this post. Let's create an action. Oh, I want a view. I create a message class. So we can do this more or less a bit dynamically while we chat. We don't necessarily have to do it beforehand. Yeah, so this was more or less the short demo that I wanted to show you. And if we just take a look at what we did, again, we did not start with the main chat and then ask questions in that chat. Instead, we had tools, and different tools provided different custom assistants with actions that are contextual to that tool. So this is how we're trying to bring more context into the conversation with an LLM. Yeah, still missing lots of things, but this is the steps that we are going forward. Yeah, if you want to just see more, just as a final note, for example, this paste here, this class here is part of the this page here. You'll just find it in the Toolkit documentation, and you can find it. Yeah, just go there and you have it. And then if you search here for GT4 LLM, you'll find a lot of more documentation about how to configure, what we support, or how to set up things, or yeah, different other things. You'll just download the GT image, search for GT4 LLM, and you will find everything to get started and play with this. Yeah, so thanks for your attention.
Do you have questions? Hi.
I think this is very cool. Is there a system that can write unit tests for methods or something like this?
Sorry?
Is there a AI assistant that can write unit tests for methods, or is it too advanced for?
Not yet. We didn't try it. No. Definitely a good idea. We'll definitely have something like that.
But it's not mature yet to be there?
Not yet.
Test. Okay. I was wondering, because you showed that you had an assistant for a specific object. Seems like it's each time you want to have an assistant, you have to specify it for an object. Is that right? Or a class of objects?
Sorry, can you say louder?
Every time you have an assistant, because you show the Vardlet map, I don't remember the name, and you show other assistants as well. Do you have to specify one for each object, or do you have like a generic version of an assistant that works for every object? How does it work actually for?
The instance, we will open again the assistant and we'll give it another instance, another like source on which it will apply the next messages. So also like every time you'll do an object, the assistant will be per object, if it helps.
Okay.
Because if you do a different object, it might be very different. So then the assistant is per object, and it knows about the object from which you started.
And what do you need to specify to adapt an assistant for a specific object? Like what is the general rule of thumb, I'll say, to create a new assistant in your case?
Subclassing. So like you said, we have a subclass, and we have a superclass, and you can subclass it and have just a class that's specific for an assistant specific for something else. For if you want a very specific assistant for a specific object, for example.
Okay, thanks. Maybe you show me later.
Yeah. No worries.
In the following, we saw quickly that you have many tools as linked to the assistants. In GT, just to know, how many tools did you develop? What are the most useful to code in GT?
At the moment, we just added some for browsing code. So for the assistant to ask back something about code, we didn't do many other things at the moment.
Okay.
We want to add a lot more. For example, for documentation back or to search, but it's still very much experimentation and
sure.
work in progress.
Okay, and it's really tools in the sense of LLM, like an LLM can call a tool and
Yes.
yeah, okay.
I mean, it didn't do. Sometimes it does look up, so you can.
Yeah, sometimes he don't want to, and we don't know why, but
sometimes it does like 50, and it's like
Yeah.
sometimes it does 150. It's very random.
Okay, and in the first demo you did, you say like, yeah, please, it was like generate the code to get the GitHub issues, but you didn't say that you are coding in Pharo or in a GT, so it means that you have some context somewhere that is hidden, I believe so.
This the instructions. So the system has the instructions, and here we tell it it's a small talk, Pharo, whatever, how we want to communicate, what it wants to do.
Okay.
We tell it the views, how it should behave. It's quite.
Okay, so you created a large, big in context to start.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
It's a longer prompt, a longer set of instructions that the LLM gets.
And that is also the place you will have to write if this were in Pharo 13, where the syntax for classes are different.
Yes.
Have you ever tried to ask it to produce the results of 2 + 3 × 4?
No.
Because that is a track that most of the AIs do not understand, even if you tell it's in Pharo, because they will say 2 + 3 times
4.
But they won't do it in the order. They will do it in the mathematical way.
Didn't try. We can try
okay.
it.
No. But that is a trick that can be extremely hard, actually. But anyways, no. Thank you.
So as we saw that there is tools that are executed, how many tools did you create? Like the number?
It's just this list here for the moment. Let me see. Let's go back, find an assistant. This was the list of tools.
Okay.
So it's, I guess, mostly for code-related actions.
And is there a pipeline how these tools are executed, or it just list and the model choose whatever tool he wants?
I'm not exactly sure on the details here.
Okay.
We have to ask Fight.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.